evacuation plan is viable? That was one of the questions.
This is obviously, this is a very tough issue for any disaster plan you can think of for the New York metropolitan region. There's no question about it. If there's a major event of any sort, it would be very, very difficult to evacuate all of the residents. So I think we have to look at the issue of probabilities. The probability that Indian Point would be violated either through natural causes or through an act of terror, and the protections regarding terror I think are quite solid. But the possibility that it would actually undergo a catastrophic event of that sort is so vanishingly small that I would rather see it continue to operate and not have substituted in a carbon-producing source that we know will cause damage. There's always an equation and a balance to all of these things.
As a follow-up question from the audience, from Reese Berman in the town of North Castle, what is your view of energy subsidies and what forms of energy would you subsidize?
Oh, there are clearly, I introduced the Pace Protection Act, and I'm working on the SAVE Act, so I am working on tax structure-based incentives to encourage the kind of behavior that will result in environmental benefits for all of us. I think there is a portfolio of opportunities that we need to constantly evaluate because technologies do change, consumer behaviors change. I think the consumer-based mechanism is one of the most powerful we have. Consumer education, local incentives. These are very good things. I think that there can be energy portfolio incentives as well on a broader national scale, but they have to be carefully calibrated, again, for sustainability fiscally and economically. And in a time when we have very constricted federal budgets, a lot of obligations that the federal government is bound to fulfill and has to fulfill, we have to regard all of those incentives in that context.
Shifting gears here, a question from Kevin Winterfield of Garrison. What are you going to do to bring green jobs to the district?
Well, I think the first issue really is let's bring jobs to the district because the Hudson Valley is such a welcoming place for those of us who are sensitive to the health of the environment, that if we can raise employment in the district in healthy ways, I think that would be a boon for all of us. When we start picking and choosing winners in the commercial marketplace, I think we run into tremendous trouble. So I would like to see thousands of green jobs come to the Hudson Valley. There's no question about it. I would like to see them come because they feel this is a great place where a business is welcomed, where there is a tax and regulatory structure that is friendly and sustainable for everyone who lives here, and not only for one or another company that may get a special allowance that increases the burdens on the rest of us. So I want to see the economic climate improve in the Hudson Valley. I think Governor Cuomo's made some very good moves in that regard to make New York a state that's welcoming to jobs, and I would certainly love to see those jobs being green industries.
There's been a lot of talk in Washington lately about clean coal. Do you think such a thing exists? If so, what is it and where is it currently in use?
I've taken most of the votes that have come my way about the coal industry. I voted no. I'm not. I don't think there is not a viable clean coal mechanism right now. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't be pursued. I think it should. If we can make coal a part of our energy portfolio and a sustainable thing, it is abundant and relatively inexpensive. However, the process of recovering coal is deeply damaging to the environment, which is why I've voted, one of the many reasons I've voted consistently against coal. It also does, unless there is a true clean coal technology, it throws a lot of pollutants into the air, and that miasma that settles over the Hudson Valley on many a morning comes from the Midwestern coal-burning power plants, which is why I voted against the Train Act as well. So I am deeply concerned about coal. I'd rather see natural gas supplant coal, and I'd rather see non-carbon sources supplant both of those. So.
Increasingly, economic planners and environmentalists are recognizing the importance of planning and doing their work on a regional basis. We get better decisions because resources are connected. Hudson Valley as a region, when it comes to federal policy, is transected by 6 congressional districts from the Capital District south. The question is, what is your plan to galvanize support in a bipartisan way among these members of Congress and form a Hudson Valley delegation that can work collaboratively to solve our economic and environmental issues?
Well, it's a great idea, and I've actually been working and cooperating with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle on a number of issues. The Hurricane Irene Coalition actually started, it was started by my colleague and good friend, Peter Welch of Vermont, who is a prominent Democrat. He's actually their deputy whip in the House, and he invited me to be co-chair of the Hurricane Irene Coalition. I was very happy to do that, and we have been able, Democrats and Republicans alike, in all the districts that were affected by those terrible storms, there was about 20 of us at least, have worked together to bring relief to our districts, done so cooperatively. I've worked with Edie Lowy and Elliot Engel on funding for the Tappan Zee Bridge. There's federal funding, there's a federal role for that. So I've worked with them on that. I am very happy to work with colleagues. Those are but 2 examples, and I think it's a great idea. And I'm only sorry I didn't think of it first, but it's a great idea to bring all of us from the Hudson River districts together, and I would be more than happy to take the lead on that.
This is a question from Joe Torres in Dutchess. Your environmental supportive acts, your own record notwithstanding, how will you convince the current House Republican leadership that the environment is worth protecting and is a priority?
Well, in one sense, bluntly, you have folks like me there who can be your advocate, can be the environment's advocate in this process. And that's an important thing to note, because there is most definitely a role for people like me in a majority situation. And certainly, I have many friends. I have friends across both sides of the aisle. I can be a catalyst for bringing our organizations together, and actually have already started addressing that, because there are a couple of organizations that are primarily composed of Republicans who advocate on behalf of the environment. So that's a natural way to bring the whole majority into the process and saying, look, you know, this is an important issue to us in this party. So the possibilities are very strong, and I'm confident that we can bring more light to these things, and I'm more than happy to be a voice on that. I already have been, but there's a lot more we can do.
Question from the audience, again back to hydrofracking. Do you support the closure of the so-called Halliburton loophole in which fracking is exempted from many of our major national environmental laws?
Fracking should not be exempt from environmental laws that apply to every other energy recovery activity that we do, including the disclosure of what's in the fluids. I think it's a very reasonable thing to ask that we know what's going into the ground when we recover natural gas. So again, yeah, this is a matter of common sense. This is a matter of doing what's right for the environment. It will not harm our energy producing companies to work cooperatively within the appropriate environmentally protected regulations. In fact, it will help them, because they will obviously have more opportunities to to work in a country that has a healthy environment than the alternative.
A question related to transportation and the Tappan Zee Bridge. If you could elaborate on some of your thoughts about how we can have a bridge that would include bus rapid transit, as well as minimize impacts on the environmental, on the river itself during the construction process.
Absolutely. The Tappan Zee is an exciting project for a lot of reasons. I am a mass transit user myself. I commuted for nearly 2 years to New York City to a job there and always used mass transit. In fact, when I would go to other cities, I would use their mass transit so that I was minimizing my carbon footprint. I do take that very seriously. I think that the Tappan Zee, if the Tappan Zee could be built today with mass transit capability, I think it would be optimal or ideal. It sounds realistically as though it will be built with the capability of adding mass transit subsequently, simply because the cost of replacing the bridge is quite large as it is, and we are not in the most robust of economic times. And we have to acknowledge those realities, balance and sustainability. So common sense tells us we need to replace that bridge. The mass transit piece probably will have to wait, but if I hear otherwise or can facilitate otherwise, I would welcome that. I was just at the signing of the environmental impact statement of the record of decision, and indeed they are introducing, as they should, a number of abatement procedures and monitoring procedures to ensure that the impact on the environment and on the wildlife, aquatic wildlife, is minimal, and I think that's a very good thing.
You know, given the questions that have come up, we can see that environment is many things. It's energy, climate policy, it's natural resource protection, it's smart growth, transportation. Given the nature of Washington right now and the partisan splits that exist and probably will continue to exist, what set of environmental issues offer the greatest opportunity for collaboration across the aisle?
Probably issues that are at the intersection of energy policy and environmental protection are the ones that are most urgently that offer themselves most urgently, if you will, or most expediently, because it is, I do believe it's important for us to enhance our domestic energy portfolio as best we can. We have a very costly carbon supply right now in certain respects, and it does make us vulnerable to nations who do not have our best interests at heart. So I think if we can press the environmentally productive, protective issues that can be accommodated within a domestic energy portfolio, I think that represents an opportunity for us to reduce energy costs, help our economy, help American workers and families and our middle class who are suffering in this economy. Everybody suffers in this economy, and everybody pays the tax in one way or another for this economy, every single American. So I think it'd be great if we could act at that intersection. Are we already done? Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it flew by. Very seriously, but I'll stick with it. You know, there are probably other questions for me. I'm happy to answer them. It's a wonderful and inspiring thing to go around the Hudson Valley, as I do every day when I'm not in Washington, and participate in the life of our communities and understand how deep the love is of people who live here, from our Pennsylvania-New Jersey border to the Connecticut border, because our district runs the entire gamut, and from urban areas through agricultural areas. It's a remarkable district, and it is an absolute privilege to get to know our communities on that kind of level and be able to carry those concerns with me to the level at which I can act, but really taking a 360-degree approach. I want to be someone who can help to catalyze, synergize, integrate our community groups, local government, county governments, state government, federal government. You need collaboration at all those levels. You need cooperation across party lines at every one of those levels. It's always been, I've always held, we all want the same things. Whatever our party is, we all want the same great things for this country, for our environment, for the children who will follow us, for the legacy that is not seen, but we know it is there. It's just a question of how do we get there? We all want the same great things. How do we get there? I never question anybody's patriotism or love of country, of the environment. Just how do we get there? How do we assure in a sustainable way that we can achieve the goals that we cherish? And that's what I'm trying to work on in a productive, constructive way for all of you. And I would be honored to continue to do that. And believe me, my heart and my ears are always open to you. My office door is always open to you, either virtually or in person. And I want to thank you obviously for your great interest in what is a very, very important subject, one that is dear to me, and I would be honored to continue being your advocate and voice in Washington. Thank you.